Under Pressure. I'm Adam.
I'm Les.
I'm Rodney.
I think today, guys, we're planning to talk out what it's like to fire up a small business or several. And so
I got an answer real quick.
Oh yeah.
For each one, take Thor's hammer, put it on your chest.
That's it. Just
like, boom. Go.
Yeah. Thor's hammer. This is Les's experience. That's a wrap, folks. Thank you for tuning in to Chill Under Pressure.
But that's it. You got to chill under the pressure of Thor's hammer. Get it off your chest and go to work anyway.
Yep.
So, as someone who's started multiple companies, it couldn't have been too bad the first time. What's the
first time I had Rich. Yeah. You don't know what you have until he's not there anymore. Rich is still alive. He's here. He's not in the business with me anymore. So. Sorry, it sounded terrible, but no, it's first one.
What was the biggest challenge starting off with Rapid Recovery?
Capital. Honestly, I mean, we had big ambitions when we started Rapid. I mean, right away we're like, we're going to take this thing national. Like we're gonna go national. That's the plan.
That was the mindset
right out the gate. That was the plan. And so what do? We brilliantly started 3 markets at one time. So we started in Arizona and in Phoenix Metro. We started in the LA Basin, all of it, and we started in the entire San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah. Emphasis on brilliantly.
Yeah, that's sarcasm, in case it was lost on anybody out there.
So the shotgun approach.
Yeah. Well, it was just. I mean, we had come out of another business where we already had clients, and so we knew that, and it sounds arrogant, but it was a fact that with that business closing. And so just for people to know, Les and I got our start at RMS in the 90s, and then that was sold to a company called Full Circle, which was owned by a publicly traded company called Environmental Technologies Corporation. And so they brilliantly got into the .com world at the time, thinking, they knew a lot. One of their divisions was smashing light bulbs and taking the mercury out. Like I'm exaggerating, but I think I'm exaggerating. But anyway, it was a very low tech business. And anyway, they got into the .com thing, and it bankrupted the whole deal. And so we started Rapid out of that vacuum. Yeah. And so it really did create a vacuum. And we said, well, man, if we walk away from these really good markets, then someone will fill the void, or something, some other solution, even if it's not like a new company comes in, but someone's going to provide that solution. And so we said, we got to do it. And so we went out. Les did a great job. He went out and bought up the equipment out of the storage locations. So that company had public warehousing style storage all across the country, and including Hawaii, and Les had relationships with all those folks. So
how'd you get that stuff from Hawaii?
We didn't get the stuff from Hawaii. As far as I know, that stuff did not come back.
You took a trip though, just to scope it out.
It didn't work out.
Did we even buy that one? I think we still bought it. I think we bought it and flipped it on the island, or did we not get Hawaii? I don't remember.
You could be right. I don't.
Well, I know we had storage there, so I don't know if we got it or not. But anyway, he went around to all these, not all, but a huge portion of these locations, and they were, because the company had gone bankrupt, they hadn't been paying their bill. So this is the kind of thing where it goes to like Storage Wars, where they auction it off. Right. And so we went in and said, well, we'll pay all the back rent, and so you don't have to auction it, and we'll just buy their inventory and buy their equipment. So that's how Rapid got started. Yeah. And so
that was recovery machines and everything. Or?
Yeah, it was gas,
recovery cylinders,
new refrigerant.
Like they wanted out of the warehouse and not getting paid to store it anymore. So just ran with that, and it was over like 8 or 9 different states, lots of individual markets, but we just went in and did that. We even bid on some and won the bids from the company that went bankrupt, and they weren't all that thrilled about that, but we did, and we got that equipment. So I remember making 3 trips with truck and trailer out to pick up the stuff we bought from their auction.
Yeah,
and bring it all back, including the reclaimers that we had originally built.
Yeah. So we started Rapid Recovery strictly as a recovery company, and I won't get lost in the weeds here, but we bought that equipment with the capital. We scrounged up the capital to get that done. When none of us had a bunch of money, because we left that other business and we had all been traveling all over the place using our own credit cards and then getting reimbursed, because that way we got the miles and all, the stuff, right? Well, and we were getting paid until we weren't getting paid. And then it was like, well, we're having a cash flow problem, but we got this big thing coming through. We got this tranche of money, blah, 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 blah. And so we were all working for free for months. And of course, at some point, you're like, this isn't going to work. But then you're like planning for the implosion. So you don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're still living, not able to work anywhere else to make an income, because you're waiting for this thing to implode so that we could do the rapid thing, which we hadn't named yet or anything. But,
Yeah.
so we bought that stuff, we sold it, flipped it, got our capital back, and then kept all the equipment. So we basically, the refrigerant value that was there paid for all of our equipment. So we kind of started with free equipment, not the trucks and stuff, but the recovery machines and some reclaimers and so on.
Yeah. Cylinders.
A lot of, the 240s that we're using. So we started there. So, but yeah, they asked the question, the capital piece, that was my answer, because for the first few years, it was like, I mean, I remember just, I was cocky. I was arrogant. I thought, this is going to go easy. We already know all these people. We're just going to walk in the door. They're going to give us our business. And they were mad because the previous company owed them money, and they looked at us as the face of that company. They're like, well, you didn't pay me. I'm like, I did not pay you. Like,
Didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
So that was some of the reaction. And then, other things too, like, well, you're just starting out. We're not sure we want to do that. That was a big company. You're not. And you get all that
And we
stuff.
had some people that worked with us in that, and they did their thing, right? And so they went into the market doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And so you
So we had
got
to
to
squash a
buy
few
some time.
competitors.
Yeah.
So anyway, the capital piece is the hardest piece. And of course, it takes a long time to build. And I would say that's true in any business. Even if you're super well capitalized, like you can have more money and you do things faster and bigger, and you still run out of money if you're not careful. So capital is really important. That was the initial hardest one. And I only say that because we had each other. So we had three really good, patting myself on the back, being part of that three, but we had three really good business partners who had started that thing, and lots of experience, knew the market, knew how to sell it, knew how to run the equipment, like the whole deal. And so we already had this edge. And I think in any business, the people piece is actually probably the hardest piece. You got to find the right people. You're going to start a restaurant. You're not doing that with one person. You need a team. And how do you got to pay them, and you got to all the things that go with that, right? You got to keep your doors open while you're waiting for clients.
Talk about that a little bit. So when you are first hiring people outside of, owners and family and all of that,
well, there's some danger there.
How does that feel?
There's danger, and we did work with a lot of family. It works somehow. It works in the Dykstra clan. Like we managed to make it work. We're very transparent. We're very open and honest with each other. We're decent communicators overall, so we're not afraid to go have a hard conversation and deal with stuff. I would say that as for a lot of people, that's a major failure point. They get all the family involved, and then they well, it's no big deal. It's just Uncle John, and he's fine. No, it's a big deal. If it's bothering you now, wait till, because everything grows, right? If you leave it in the dark and you leave it in the cold, it grows, and so you're going to get that fungus will start taking over the organization. But reaching out, man, I mean, it's tough. You're trusting somebody else with your baby, and you think, oh, that's cliche. Well, it is, but it's your blood, sweat, and tears that went into it.
Well, you're talking about franchising then at that point, or just team?
Just team.
Okay.
Just bringing on anybody. You don't, how do I know that you're going to,
represent us well at the job site,
gotcha.
Do the things the way we taught you to do it, and
it's
take
a growth
care of the
point.
client.
It's a growth point. It's really hard to cross the bridge of bringing on other people, and you have to do it if you're ever going to scale.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's tough. And then having good, recruiting policy practice. It's not really policies at that point. You don't have any, but it's like this idea of, I'm going to look for three things. I'm going to look for four things. These things matter to me. And I always talk about my 3 C's, characters first. Like, I got to know that when I'm not around and I'm not looking, or no one's looking, that you're still doing the right thing. Because it's the only thing that we've got in the market is our integrity. We have our reputation, our name.
Yeah.
And if you ruin that, you've ruined the whole thing. Now, you can get big enough where you can have a bad apple and your customers can be forgiving. But when you're small, that they don't, there's no grace. There's no forgiveness. There's just no, you're a bad company.
Yeah.
And you have
we've
that.
all experienced that.
Yeah. And you have that with the partnership too, right? Like, you talk about the ability to have difficult conversations, right? We're all fairly decent at that, and we can get stuff out there in the open. But the trust factor of what your partners are doing, how things are working, and talking things out and going through it. Without good partners, it's just a train wreck.
Well, and even if you have great partners, you still go, man, is he working as hard as I am? Is that guy pulling his weight? Like, oh, I'm busting my butt over here. I'm doing all this stuff, and so-and-so's like sitting by the pool or whatever, right? I mean, so there's no, and now for at Hero, I mean, I've got lots going on in lots of places, and certainly need to have open conversations about me. Like I'm probably the most guilty party, right? Like I travel all the time. I've got fingers in other businesses and so on. And so it's like, well, are you distracted? Are you able to focus? And the answer is no, I cannot focus like it was when I was the only thing, and that was all I was doing. And so, how does that work? And what does that look like? And
You're so high output that it makes up for
well, I like to believe
distractions.
that's what I tell myself.
It just go, but
You're
it
good
goes,
enough. You're smart enough. And doggone it, people like you.
it goes back to what you're talking about is the process to bring the right people in around you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To get
You want
stuff
people
done.
that you like to be around.
Right.
Yeah.
And that are going to get stuff done. That
Exactly.
are, not only motivated, but disciplined.
Yeah.
Right. Because, I'm going to
Yeah.
go out and make that call that I want to go make. I'm going to go out and do this thing, whatever it is that's, difficult for them or whatever is on there. I really don't want to do this today, but that's a necessary thing. And they're
Yeah.
going to go do it anyway because they're disciplined, not just motivated.
Yeah, that's part of that character, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
100%.
how you're built. And then you got to find people that fit. Like they got to fit with you. They got to fit with your client, your culture. So you can call that. I mean, for me, I always called it culture. It's a culture fit.
Yeah.
That was a big word in the 2000s. People talk about culture, and to me, it's still a really big deal. It's part of how I'm wired,
Mhm.
and certainly how you guys are wired. Like this is what makes us work for us and the type of organization we're building here at Hero. But finding people who fit that culture. I mean, I've fired people because they were awesome at their job. I remember a gentleman in particular. We had a collections part of our company, right? You have to get paid for the work you do, and sometimes people don't want to pay, and so you got to call them, you got to email them, you got to remind them, you got to do all this stuff. And the guy was awesome, but he was creepy, like weird, like it was. And so like I remember sitting down and going, look, you're awesome at your job. You just don't fit here. We will give you a fantastic referral. You did nothing wrong with your work. It's not your work, and it's just you don't fit here. And I say he's creepy, but he probably wasn't. It's just in our world, it didn't fit, right? Yeah. And that's a unique case that sticks in my mind. There are other times where culture fits were a big one. In fact, we got to the point where, as you grow, you're not even doing your own hiring, right? You get to a size where you have people who are hiring people for you, like
it's a different level of trust.
Yeah. and so your teams are doing it because now you got like an HR department, and they're a part of that, and they're generating all these leads, or all these people who are interested or might be interested in resumes and so on. And then you have your teams doing these interviews with some guidance.
Yeah.
And so your teams are doing the hiring effectively. Like, who do we want on our team?
Yeah, which makes those first hires so important.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they'll turn into those people.
That's
hiring.
right. Yeah. And that's interesting too. I think the last one for me was competency. So we've got character, culture, and competency. And competency really is important, but it's also the last one on the list for a reason.
Which is not always the case when people are hiring.
Oh no, because they're hiring a need.
Right.
I have this deficiency. I have this problem. I need this. So I'm going to fill that gap. So I'm hiring that competency.
So I need this keyword on his resume. Otherwise,
yeah.
But we didn't have AI back then to help us with that. You just feed resumes into ChatGPT and say, "Who should I hire?"
Yeah. But,
that's a bad strategy, by the way. I'm not endorsing that strategy.
But yeah, that was a real thing and that was kind of an eye opener for me when you were teaching me that, because if I needed somebody,
I need a full stack developer.
Exactly. I need someone familiar with this specific application. So why would I not search all over their resume for that?
Right.
So.
Well, and
the thing is, you can teach. If you have the other two qualities, you can teach the competency to a certain level.
To a certain level. I mean, like if you need a neurosurgeon, you need a neurosurgeon.
Right.
Like you
Don't
need,
hire a janitor.
right.
Yeah.
Just because he's man, but he's got great character and he's a culture fit.
Right.
I'm not going to let him operate on my brain. So I mean, you do need all three, but
Sure.
sometimes there are certain roles. I mean, and this was very true in the recovery business, right? Back in rapid recovery, we would hire. There was no such thing as a recovery technician. Like you weren't going out to the marketplace going, all right, we're looking for seasoned
Right.
recovery technicians. Like we created that market. It didn't exist. And so you were looking for people who you could train, who had a black thumb. Maybe they were a shade tree mechanic. Maybe they like to work on dirt bikes in their spare time. Maybe they were in the HVAC industry, and they didn't, for us, they didn't really even have to have that. They just needed to be somebody who understood mechanics, mechanical things, a black thumb. you know?
Yeah.
And they knew how to talk to people,
Yeah.
and interact with them in a socially acceptable way, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. It could be weird on the job.
Yeah.
Nobody wants you
So
back.
we talked about sales. We talked about hiring. What about marketing? Was that a hard thing to get started? What was your philosophy, or what did you learn from that?
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a brilliant marketer. And our marketing firm is rolling their eyes heavily at this moment. It's funny. Everybody thinks they're a brilliant marketer. I mean, almost everybody. I mean, you meet a business owner and they're like, "Oh, I know how to market. I'm great at marketing. I get this dialed."
Are you marketing right now? Well, no, I'm too busy.
Yeah. Well, then I'm too busy to sell. So, and then people, what is marketing, right? We've had that discussion internally. Like, what is marketing? What is sales? What is what? No, I mean, it is hard. Again, you define the type of organization that you want to be, and that needs to be reflected in how you present yourself. And marketing is in its kind of essence is how do you present yourself to the marketplace. And so that's imagery, that's wording, that's color choices, that's the means by which you market, like where.
and then when the people you hire show up to the job site, you have to match all of that.
Yeah, you can't have a guy going just because he lives in San Diego and he loves to surf, showing up at the job in flip flops and board shorts, or you can, and then he doesn't work there anymore.
And you lost now you have to rework to
And
get
you could have
client
somebody
back.
who's really good.
Yeah.
Like that guy could have been amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, if I wasn't picking somebody in my head right now, but he didn't work for us anymore,
Yeah.
and we had to work to get the client back because
Yeah.
they're like, wow. Because I mean, imagine if you're the client and you've hired a company to come represent you, even when you're not there.
Yeah.
And you show up, and that's what your vendor comes
Right.
like. Man, I'm glad I'm here today. Because what if you weren't?
Yeah.
That's now how you represented your client.
Right.
It's rough. So.
Yeah.
It was interesting, and we talked on a previous episode about representing the highest level client, but the highest expectation level.
Yeah.
I remember going on a call in the Bay Area, inland, and it's someone who hadn't used us in a while. We went in there, and I was talking with him. He goes, "I'll be honest, I didn't have the last guy. His shirt was untucked. He was dirty. There was hand prints and grease prints all over our work order. That's never happened with you guys before until the last 3 or 4 months. So we just saw a degradation. That in and of itself
And then you go,
was enough.
why didn't you tell me?
Right,
I don't know.
let us know.
Right. But
So you fix to resolve that, right? Well, hey, give us another opportunity to come back in, right? But
sorry,
it's all right.
I'm thinking the same thing. Not every organization has its stuff, right? So Rapid, we had technicians that didn't do a great job. We had leaders that failed. We had technology that failed, right? At various points, right? No matter what you do, you fail regularly. In fact, it's what you do in those failures that ends up modeling the true character of the organization.
Right.
And I was thinking about that with Hero, and we have getting feedback, right? Why didn't that guy tell you, right? Why didn't? Come on, man,
Right.
just tell me. I got
Yeah.
I have a booger on my face. Like, come on, tell me. Like, I got something in my teeth. Like, you want somebody to tell you. A true friend tells you, right? And the guy's like, "Well, I'm not your true friend." But we have that same thing with Hero, right? I mean, technology is always changing, and it's forever failing, right? Like I pick up every app I've ever used. I'm like, "Oh, I hate this about this," or "Oh, it just crashed on me," or whatever, right? You have these moments. And so, I would encourage anybody out there, if you're using our tool and you've had had a problem, or you don't like something. We
or
want
you
to
want
know.
additional feature.
Or you want another feature. We want to know. So I mean, I'm
Just-
totally off topic, but I'm just saying, like, just like we wanted to know about
Right.
about this technician that was getting everything greasy and nasty and didn't know how to shower or whatever
Right.
it is.
And we've gone over it with a fine tooth comb based on our experience, and we think we have it dialed. And then you
Yeah,
talk
we're
to
brilliant.
somebody, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't think of that." So
Right.
yeah, we welcome.
Oh, we
it.
did put in there where you could submit those things right from
Right.
from the profile page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but and it's going back to the the when you have people who aren't representing the company well, sometimes if you don't set the expectation, if the people you have running things, if you've done as an organization, you've done a poor job of putting people in place or done a poor job of running the expectations, no one can meet an expectation that hasn't been properly set.
Hmm.
Right. Or
Oh,
they
man,
didn't
you
meet
sound
it.
like you're right from the HR department. Good job. That's so right, man.
or an
So-
expectation that's been, it's but I haven't met it the last 4 times. No one said anything, right?
Yeah.
So it may have been
Consistency.
set, but you didn't maintain it.
So for those companies that have hired some people, whatever that number is, if that's 5 people, 10 people, whatever, you've run a company that's larger than that, much larger than that. What's it like to go from that smaller size to, okay, now I'm going to scale? What are some of the unique challenges with that?
I think that crossing 10 is a really powerful number. So I'm not answering your question. I'm answering a different question.
Well,
Like,
do whatever
I'm
you
just-
want to do,
I'll
I guess.
just- yeah, I'll describe. I'd rather describe instead of
Just
answering
ask
your
it
question.
again when he's done.
Clearly, I have a problem talking. I don't have enough words. I think that the cool points are when you cross 10, there's a certain feel, right? It's like, oh, I can actually breathe. I can look around in my organization. I can work on it a little bit instead of just in it. I don't have to be elbow deep in every machine and every recovery and every, sandwich I'm making, whatever. You can get to a certain spot. And then when you cross 50, now it feels like an organization. Now there's some loss there, right? You've lost some of that maybe family feel or that connection. And again, depends on the type of organization you're building. Some people are like, it's not a family, it's a business, it's all about making money. All right, there are definitely still things lost and changed when you go from 10 to 50.
Mm-hmm.
And then crossing 100, it does it again. And then when you get to several hundred, and I haven't run anything over 1,000 people, so that large, I can explain that break point. But I will say when you start getting 300, 400 people, it's man, you don't know everybody. You're right. You're literally just trying to build systems and build an organization and have certain character yourself and lead from that perspective, the unknown, because you're trying to communicate a message to somebody you never get to. You might even shake their hand. You might have met them, but like that,
You
you're
feel
not-
disconnected.
You definitely are disconnected, and you don't know their kids, and you don't know their spouse or whatever, right? So,
And when you're a relational person, that has a toll too, right?
Yes.
Like trying to do this, but you're disconnected from.
Because everybody
The
knows
people.
you, but you don't
They
have
know who you are.
capacity.
Yeah.
You don't have capacity to
Mhm.
know everyone to that level.
I really liked 50, like around there.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 30 and 70 is was at least in my previous business that felt really good.
I hear a lot that people are scared, nervous, whatever that emotion is, to hire that first person outside of what you have. Is there another number where it's like, because you described it as freeing, is there some sort of like a fear based as well, like, oh my gosh, now I'm responsible for these people and their families, and
Yeah, when you wake up, I remember having this with my wife. Like when you start a business, I mean, unless you're independently wealthy and whatever, and you don't have any risk in your life because there's some random wealth pot out there, but the reality is you're like typically borrowing money, and when you're borrowing money, your house is on the line because they're not going to let you, like, your business isn't justifying its own value at that point. So, and of course the bank, once they've got your personal guarantee, they don't ever want to give it away, right? so it's hard. I mean, it obviously can happen, it does happen, it needs to happen at some point. But I remember even outside of that risk, so that's a big deal. But sitting in my house, because we don't live in a mansion, we live in a nice suburban home. It's fine. There's nothing particularly spectacular about it.
got a pool.
It's got a pool. Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice house, right? Like I'm not picking on it. It's a nice place, but we're not living on a mansion on the side of a mountain somewhere. And there's nothing wrong with that either. Like I'm not painting a picture like that. There's something wrong with it, but I'm just trying to give a little color to who we are. And I remember sitting there talking to my wife and going, our payroll, if I sold our house and cashed it in, and if I could do that in 3 days, I could not make payroll on Friday. Like our house is not worth payroll.
Yeah.
Like suddenly you're like, it's weighty. Like that Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
Les is talking about. Like it's a weightiness. Like because your options are gone. I mean, I remember, way back when Rich was running RMS, he first was bootstrapping that business. Like they had checked income that was supposed to come. Like it was, yep, it'll be there on Tuesday. What Tuesday came and went, Wednesday came and went, Thursday came and went, Friday payroll was due. He sold the Suburban. He's like, I gotta make payroll. I could sell the Suburban. And then that, I was a kid, I was a young kid at the time. And I remember hearing that story and seeing it happen. I mean, I wasn't there for the moment, but I remember Suburban was here and 2 weeks later, Suburban is gone.
Uncle Rich, where's your Suburban?
Yeah, right. and the impact that story had, and he's not a super talker. It'd be interesting when we get him on our podcast. He's brilliant, but he's not a super talker, but he was transparent with me. And that was one of the things that helped me grow as a leader and as a business owner is he would tell me things that no adult should tell a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid, right? But I internalized those. I learned from them. That was one of those. I'm like, and so that's why I think the house thing hit me when I realized like I could sell my home and still couldn't make payroll on Friday. And you get those moments.
And then that's where, if you're running a business, you have to control your headspace, right? You can't let your head run, oh my gosh, my house, like, that's very weighty.
Like you can't get up in the morning.
You can't get up in the morning. Like you have to get your headspace and work in what you know and keep doing what you need to do and do the best practices and execute regardless of all the pressure or those things. It's you have to execute.
So
at the end of the day,
I mean, you talk about you have to do these things, right? We're all of us are believers. In fact, a huge portion of Hero of our believers, and it just worked out that way. I mean, it's not like a hiring practice. It's just God has led us great people and that happen to be like-minded in that area, and it's awesome. But one of the things that when you're in startup mode, that is a comfort, is it's not mine. I'm a manager. So if you're really digging into what God teaches in His Word, you're a manager, you're a steward. And so you have that. It's kind of peaceful, kind of not, right?
God, can you please just get Thor's hammer off me right now? Do I?
But that's absolutely right. But the other side of that is, God challenges your faith and pushes you forward to grow, and that's uncomfortable. But the other side of that is if you just follow what God teaches in His Word, as a believer, this is easy to say. It's not easy to do. But if you follow that, then those become the moments where you're like, well, this is past me at this point. I'm going to keep doing the same thing over and over. And people say, well, that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing is bringing a different result. But it takes time. And so you just got to get up and you got to do the thing. You got to keep pushing forward. You got to keep grinding it out. You got to have grit. You got to push. And those are all biblical concepts of just, you trust me. I've got it. You turn your work to me. You work for me, not for Hero, not for, Rapid, whatever it is anyway. And when you do that, and you do it to your best of your ability, then the rest is outside your control. Now, it doesn't mean you get to go blindly through it, but
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's easy. The other thing. It like outside of that, the other thing is you're going through that. You're redefining. Am I bringing something of value? Yes.
Yeah.
Do we know what we're doing? Yes. Right. You in order to get up under those pressures and go do it, you have to reevaluate and validate what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, because that's what gives you the discipline to go out and do it.
Believer or not, that's
right.
The fundamental principle of success. Like you have to believe in what you're doing and reevaluate.
That's right.
A lot of great companies pivot, and they do that because they're constantly reevaluating the market.
So who's a great example of that is Bluon.
Yeah.
Right. Bluon started out as a refrigerant company, and now they're a tech company.
Yeah.
Right?
And from my experience, pretty cool tech. So
yeah,
good job, guys.
Yeah.
Rod, you were going to say something earlier. You're going to ask something.
I was going to say, it's common to be like, why? Just ask that question, like, why? Why is this not working? Why?
Yeah.
And why me? Why us? Why? And so I think just kind of that mind change of, well, what wouldn't I have learned if I didn't go through this? And because there's always lessons to be learned in whatever your circumstance is. And so I think just keeping your mind, reframing things so that it's not a Chicken Little scenario.
Yeah, fear is, well, I mean, and so we're talking about what it's like to start a small business. And I think we've just described for now a while fear. Fear is if you don't have a tolerance to conquer your own fears, do not go into business.
Right.
Just do not.
Yeah.
You will become a fear conqueror, because that is the only, like, it is in every business. Fear of what happens if the client says no, what happens if I get sued, what happens if something bad happens to somebody, when somebody gets killed on a job because of something one of my team members does, something I do, something, whatever, right? All those, what if I can't make payroll, what if I lose my house, what if I can't feed my kids, what if, look, fear is a major part of every small business. And when you get bigger, it doesn't go away. Your fears change. You may not be, maybe you're doing good cash management. Maybe you've got good war chest going, all those things. You still have fears. You still have the fear of, what if I screw this up? I mean, what if I blow it at this point?
Yeah.
Man,
And if you're getting ready
failure.
if you're getting ready to do it and you don't have any of that, then you're ignorantly blissed. you just don't know, right? You don't
And
know.
that's
You
bad
don't know.
too. If you're unaware, if you're not afraid and you're starting a business, you should pause. Get a good mentor. They'll scare you a little. And fear is healthy too.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, right?
Yeah. But come back, you really have to control, your headspace and where you live in your head, and, take, another biblical, take certain thoughts captive and wrap them up, bound them, and move forward with what you know.
And I would say, no, you had something.
I was going to ask, as a startup founder, how did you handle your time that you put into the company versus personal time? Like, what did that look like at the beginning, over time?
Yeah.
What lessons did you learn from that?
Well, you said you started with how did you handle that? And I would say poorly. That was the first word that came to
Poorly.
Yeah. I think you would answer that poorly as well.
You
You self-sacrifice, which is fine, right? You can give up your own personal time. You can give up family time. You can push some of those things a little, and for a little while, and that's not bad. It's real, because you're fighting for the survival of a thing that you're trying to build for your family.
Right.
It's also can be a lie, and then you can just live that way forever. And I've seen small business tear apart families like nothing else, because they, if you pour yourself into it, it's all you care about. It's the only thing you love. And what about I'm doing it for my kids. I'm doing it for you. The whole argument, the screaming matches, and that's not true. At that point, when you get to that spot, you're not doing it for them anymore. You're doing it for you. It's an ego trip. It's a power trip. It's whatever it is. It's whatever your dopamine trip is giving you.
Yeah. And you have two sides, right? The other side is, like, your family's always going to, idealistic, hopefully, they always want more of your time.
That's right.
Right. And your business requires your time. And so neither one will ever be fully satisfied.
Right.
So you've got to find that, some type of healthy space in there. And it's, for me, it's specific because, I have lots of kids. So I still have a 6-year-old at home and I have a 30-year-old. Right. So those are, it's
I got grandkids.
I got grandkids.
And you're old.
No, 7 grandkids and number 8 on the way, which could be another girl, by the way.
Congratulations.
I'm allowed to announce that, but it's out there now.
By the time it just releases.
So, those, but the younger kids I have now have the same wants as the younger kids I had, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. So it's a constant exercise in trying to balance the things that are required, and both want your full attention.
I always had trouble with the word balance, because I feel like it's more like kind of like cycles, where I'll put a lot of energy and focus on this part, and then it's seasonal, right? But then you're in a different season, and now this is getting a lot of my time and effort and stuff, and it just kind of moves around to whatever the immediate focus is at the time. Would you agree with that, or do you try to keep a more of a balanced approach?
I think that's still balance, is just over a longer period of time.
That's it's like a life balance
yeah.
than a momentary balance. So I would agree that it definitely rolls in cycles. I mean, when we've had times where like everything else gets pushed aside, which is all hero all the time. And particularly, like, I mean, even this spring, we were doing a bunch of shows, we were traveling, we were, had all these demos, like it was just lots. Plus, we had all these releases coming out, so we're evaluating, did it meet the product, meet the expectations, all that, and with ourselves, and because we have high standards for ourselves and for our team, but also for our clients. So,
and one of the things we did, right, we have some older kids, we took them with us and gave them the opportunity to experience that, right? I took one of my daughters to the HVACR Excellence show in Vegas.
Yeah, took my son took sons to ASHRAE.
Yeah, and our wives went, right? Yeah. So there's things when you find that you can incorporate. Sometimes my kids will go to the luncheons with me that I'm doing for, right? So there's things that you can incorporate. That's good for them too, to see, oh, dad really is doing this. This is what he does. Oh, there you go, right? So there's opportunity there.
I have a big problem there with my kids because I sit at a computer and they're just like, oh, he just hides in his office all day. He doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah, just playing video games. That's all I do with my computer. So it must be all he does with his. That's funny.
Yeah, so certainly, the roles, mine's much more tangible in a way. But,
Rod, you've had some medical challenges over the last year.
Yeah.
What's that been like? Share what you're willing to share, but what's that been like as a leader of an organization, building a team, building a company, startup mode too, right?
Yeah.
Where it's all on all the time.
Yeah, it's been a challenge. So I got diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and I think it goes back to the point of having good partners and good hires and all of that, because you guys were just willing to step in right away and do what needed to be done while I was, with chemo brain, and the team, continued on and did fantastic, and it was so great to come back and just see the progress that was made, and just that. I mean, I would say love poured out on my behalf and my family's behalf. So
probably a little hard too, right? Come back and
sure.
Like, who moved that? Why did that happen? We didn't talk about that. I thought you were doing this.
I told Les not to touch that. He had very specific area.
We just told Les, don't touch anything. Don't touch anything.
So yeah, I mean, I think it was good for me because I didn't have a choice of handing over control of certain things. Like I had to do it. There was no way I could keep going at the same pace while doing chemo and all of that. So it was a growth point for me as well.
It was tough too on our side to go, does he want me to take that? Does he want to let that go? Can I even take that? Like what happens when, like practicalities are, I don't have your skill set.
Right.
Les doesn't have your skill set.
I don't have either of your skill sets.
We're a good team because of what we each bring to the table.
Right.
And when you're a leg down on the stool, it's hard, right? Where this 3-legged stool really holds this thing up. And that's true in any small business too. When we're talking about that, like having good, if you're going to go into partnership, choose carefully, really carefully. And don't go in with your buddy. Don't go in with your broke brother-in-law. Whatever. Really think it out. Talk it out. I don't have a prenup in my marriage. I don't. That's a lifelong commitment. This business is not the same. This is but we have to act like we're married. I mean, in that way, we have to make decisions together. We have to make big, very complex decisions that impact all of our individual families differently.
Right.
And so, anyway, you really have to have great partners. But then when you part of a great partners is you take for each other, right? You take some hits when you need to take hits. I know at Rapid in early days, I remember telling Les, either they go or I go. He looked at me, he's like, what are you talking about? and I just got to my breaking point and I hadn't shared. my partners didn't realize I was in that spot. Like, and Les is like, okay, first off, that's ridiculous. We're going to talk about that later. There's stuff there that, you know, like, don't let them occupy that headspace. You're letting them live rent free in your head, all this stuff. Like, we had to go through a bunch of stuff, but he's just said, before we go any further with any of this, I got it. They're my problem now. I'll just handle that whole relationship, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And that was super, super important to have somebody do that. And I think in your situation to be able to come along, but then it's like, you know, I had to say, yeah, okay, I'm ready to let it go. Because I was like, no, I don't feel right about that. Like, then how does he do that? Right now he's unempowered to.
Yeah.
And so it's that challenge of, you know, being open communicators about, okay, I'm taking this. Like, it may not look the way you thought it would look when it's done, because I'm not you. And so,
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, I think this is one of those ones we'll be coming back to
Yeah.
as we go along. But I think it's really cool to get to talk about what, you know, it is to start a small business. And I think, you know, for folks out there too who are doing the same thing, you know, they're starting their own business. It doesn't scale is irrelevant in that regard. The same core tenets and principles come into play when you're starting, and you're just starting alone because it's what you got. You know, single operator, an HVAC van. And you're like, I'm going out alone. It's hard.
And not everybody wants to scale past a certain point either.
Right.
that's right.
Yeah.
And there's lots of reasons for that. They're very valid reasons.
They are. That's right. That's right.
100% very
Yeah,
valid reasons.
There's nothing like more like, oh, you're brilliant because you got to, you know, $1 billion. Like, that sounds awesome. I would never ever want to do that. Like, I just no desire.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever want to do something with several hundred people again. Like, I just not interested.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not fun for me. It's not how I'm wired.
Yeah,
So,
too disconnected for you.
yep.
Yeah.
I'm a relationship person. I want those relationships.
Yeah.
So.
Well, hey, I think you're right. We probably need to come back on this one maybe
Yeah.
a little bit, but right now we're gonna have to wrap it up
All righty.
because we're at time.
Very good. Well, chill under pressure. I'm Adam.
I'm Rodney.
I'm Les.
We'll see you next time. Peace.